This is Brianna Williams, a young mother in Jacksonville, Florida. From outward appearances, Brianna seemed to be a devoted single mother, dedicated to her beautiful 5-year-old daughter, Taylor Rose Williams. Taylor, a bright and cheerful child, brought immense joy to those who knew her. With her infectious laughter and innocent eyes, she had her whole life ahead of her. Brianna often shared glimpses of their life together on social media, posting pictures that portrayed a loving and caring mother-daughter relationship. Friends and family saw a bond that seemed unbreakable. Behind closed doors, however, a darker reality was hidden from view. The truth, when it finally surfaced, would shock the community and beyond. This is the story of a mother's betrayal, a story of deception, and the tragic loss of an innocent life. It's a story that gripped a nation and left a community grappling with unimaginable grief. This is the story of Taylor Rose Williams. November 6, 2019 began like any other day in Jacksonville. The sun rose, casting its warm glow across the city. However, by day's end, a dark cloud would descend upon the community. It began with a chilling call to 911. Brianna Williams, her voice trembling with what sounded like fear and desperation, reported her daughter Taylor missing. Brianna told the operator that she had last seen Taylor in her bedroom the night before. She claimed that when she checked on her daughter that morning, Taylor was gone. The door to their apartment, she said, was inexplicably ajar. The news of Taylor's disappearance spread like wildfire through the community. Fear and concern gripped the hearts of Jacksonville residents. The story of a missing child, always a parent's worst nightmare, struck a chord with people everywhere. Volunteers rallied, determined to bring Taylor home. Search parties scoured the area, their hope dwindling with each passing hour. As days turned into nights, the mystery of Taylor's disappearance deepened, and a sense of dread began to settle over the investigation. Law enforcement officials, their faces etched with concern, held press conferences, pleading for any information that might lead them to Taylor. They appealed to the public, hoping someone, somewhere, had seen something that could help. However, as the investigation progressed, inconsistencies began to emerge in Brianna Williams' story. Her demeanor, initially frantic and distraught, seemed to shift, raising red flags for investigators.
The timeline she provided didn't add up. Details she shared contradicted evidence found at the scene. The more we dug, the more suspicious we became. Brianna, once a picture of a distraught mother, was now the focus of our investigation.
What began as a missing persons case was about to take a dark and sinister turn. The truth, when it was finally revealed, would be far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. What happened to Taylor Rose Williams? How could a mother betray her own child? The answers would come, but they would be steeped in tragedy and heartbreak. The search for Taylor Rose Williams was about to become a search for justice. As investigators delved deeper into Brianna Williams' life, a picture emerged of a young woman grappling with personal demons. Whispers of past struggles and questionable choices began to surface. Friends and family revealed that Brianna had a history of instability, marked by periods of isolation and emotional distress. Her life seemed to be a tapestry woven with threads of secrecy and hidden pain.
Brianna's military service, once a source of pride, became a point of scrutiny. She had been discharged from the Navy under less than favorable circumstances, details of which remained shrouded in mystery. Had the pressures of service exacerbated existing issues, or did they hint at deeper, darker impulses lurking beneath the surface? The investigation continued to uncover more questions than answers.
Text messages recovered from Brianna's phone painted a picture of an overwhelmed single mother, struggling to balance the demands of parenthood with her own personal turmoil. Desperate pleas for childcare and expressions of frustration revealed the cracks in Brianna's carefully constructed facade. The weight of her secrets, it seemed, was becoming too heavy to bear. Meanwhile, the search for Taylor continued. but the hope that had once burned brightly was beginning to flicker and fade. The community, once united in their determination to bring Taylor home, grappled with a growing sense of unease. The investigation was shifting, and with it, the narrative surrounding Taylor's disappearance was taking a sinister turn. Brianna, initially cooperative with detectives, began to change her story, offering conflicting accounts of the hours and days leading up to Taylor's disappearance.
Her timeline, once seemingly straightforward, became a tangled web of inconsistencies and contradictions. Each new detail she provided only raised more questions, casting further doubt on her version of events.
Surveillance footage obtained from neighbors' homes showed no sign of any suspicious activity around Brianna's apartment complex in the days leading up to Taylor's disappearance. The footage, or lack thereof, directly contradicted Brianna's claims of an intruder and further fueled suspicions amongst investigators.
The evidence was mounting, and it was all pointing in one direction.
A search warrant executed at Brianna's apartment revealed a disturbing lack of evidence to support her claims. Taylor's toys and belongings remained untouched, as if frozen in time. There were no signs of a struggle, no forced entry, and no indication that a child had been abducted. The apartment, meticulously clean and eerily quiet, felt more like a stage set than a family home.
As days turned into weeks, the investigation intensified. Detectives worked tirelessly, following every lead, every whisper, every shred of evidence. They knew that time was of the essence, not just for Taylor, but for Brianna as well. The walls were closing in, and the truth, whatever it might be, was about to come to light.
Forensic teams meticulously combed through Brianna's apartment, searching for any trace of Taylor. They collected fibers, hairs, and fingerprints, hoping to uncover even the smallest clue that could lead them to the missing child. Each piece of evidence was carefully cataloged and sent to the lab for analysis, a silent symphony of science and deduction playing out in the pursuit of justice.
DNA evidence recovered from Brianna's car revealed traces of blood that matched Taylor's DNA. The discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation, confirming the worst fears of those who had been following the case closely. Brianna, once a grieving mother pleading for her daughter's safe return, was now the prime suspect in her disappearance.
Faced with mounting evidence and relentless questioning, Brianna's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Her demeanor shifted from evasive to defensive, her once convincing tears replaced by a cold, detached stare. The truth, it seemed, was slowly but surely being pried from her grasp.
The investigation was far from over, but one thing was becoming abundantly clear. Brianna Williams knew more than she was letting on. The question was no longer whether or not Taylor was still alive, but what had happened to her and what role her own mother had played in her disappearance. The stage was set for a dramatic turn of events, one that would send shockwaves across the nation.
As the investigation into Taylor Rose's disappearance intensified, a crucial piece of information emerged, leading investigators on a grim journey hundreds of miles away from Jacksonville. Brianna, in the days before reporting Taylor missing, had made a trip to Demopolis, Alabama, her hometown. The purpose of this trip remained unclear, shrouded in secrecy and raising further suspicion.
The long drive from Jacksonville to Demopolis became a road paved with dread and anticipation for the investigators. The answers, they hoped, lay hidden somewhere along the desolate highways and back roads of the Deep South. Time was of the essence, and every mile that passed brought them closer to either the truth or another dead end.
The search of the wooded area outside Demopolis was long and arduous. Days turned into nights as investigators combed through the dense undergrowth. Their determination was fueled by a mix of grim duty and hope.
Then a discovery. A small piece of purple fabric snagged on a thorny branch, the same shade as Taylor's clothes. Hope turned to dread.
The fabric led to a shallow grave inside the remains of a small child, a collective gasp of horror and sorrow.
The discovery sent shockwaves through Jacksonville and Demopolis. The hope was extinguished, replaced by grief and a desire for answers.
With the discovery of Taylor Rose's remains, the investigation took on a new sense of urgency. The focus shifted from a missing persons case to a homicide investigation, and the evidence, once scattered and seemingly insignificant, began to paint a clearer, albeit horrifying, picture of what had happened to Taylor.
Forensic analysis revealed that Taylor had been dead for several weeks before her body was discovered, her small body bearing silent witness to the brutality of her final moments. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, and the evidence suggested that Taylor had been suffocated with duct tape, her cries for help silenced in the most horrific way imaginable.
Investigators meticulously pieced together a timeline of Brianna's movements in the days leading up to and following Taylor's death, using cell phone records, gas station receipts, and surveillance footage to track her every move. The evidence was damning, creating an inescapable web of guilt around Brianna.
It became horrifyingly clear that Brianna had not only killed her daughter, but had gone to great lengths to cover up her crime, transporting Taylor's body hundreds of miles and burying her in a shallow grave, hoping to conceal her horrific act from the world. The question that now haunted investigators was not if Brianna was responsible, but why? What could drive a mother to commit such an unspeakable act against her own flesh and blood? The investigation into Taylor Rose's death left investigators grappling with more questions than answers. Despite the overwhelming evidence against Brianna, the motive behind her horrific act remained a chilling mystery. What could drive a mother to kill her own child? Was it a moment of unfathomable rage or something more sinister?
Brianna, tight-lipped and showing no remorse, offered no explanation for her actions. Had she ever loved her daughter? Did she feel any guilt? The answers seemed locked away in Brianna's mind.
The community struggled to come to terms with the horrific crime. Candlelight vigils were held, teddy bears and flowers piled high at makeshift memorials. Taylor Rose deserved so much more than to be forgotten.
The hope for easy answers faded, replaced by the stark reality that some questions may never be fully answered.
Section 5. A Mother's Confession.
2 years after Taylor Rose's disappearance, Brianna Williams appeared in court, a ghost of her former self, her face pale and drawn, her eyes betraying a flicker of the torment that had haunted her for so long. The weight of the evidence against her, the knowledge of her horrific crime, had finally become too heavy to bear.
In a voice barely a whisper, Brianna Williams confessed to the unthinkable. She had killed her daughter, Taylor Rose. The details of her confession, chilling in their matter-of-factness, sent a collective shudder through the courtroom. She described how, in a moment of frustration, she had suffocated Taylor with duct tape, silencing her cries for help.
Brianna's confession, while bringing a sense of closure to the investigation, did little to ease the pain of Taylor's loss. The community, still reeling from the horror of Taylor's death, struggled to comprehend how a mother could commit such an unspeakable act against her own child. The courtroom, usually a place of order and reason, seemed to crack under the weight of such profound sorrow and despair.
Brianna's confession was a hollow victory, a bitter pill to swallow. It would not bring Taylor Rose back, nor would it erase the pain of her absence. It was, however, a necessary step towards justice, a recognition of the horrific truth that had haunted the community for far too long. Section 6. The Weight of Guilt.
Brianna Williams, once a picture of youthful innocence, now stood as a convicted killer, the weight of her crime etched upon her face.
The judge sentenced Brianna to life in prison without parole, a sentence that, while bringing a sense of justice for Taylor Rose, could never truly heal the wounds inflicted by her loss.
Life in prison would be Brianna's penance, a daily reminder of the horrific choice she had made.
The tragic case of Taylor Rose Williams left an enduring mark on the community, a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the devastating consequences of violence against children. Section 1. The walls close in.
The discovery of Taylor Rose's remains sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. Brianna Williams, the once sympathetic figure of a distraught mother, was now the prime suspect in her daughter's death.
Investigators worked tirelessly, piecing together the puzzle of Taylor Rose's final days.
On November 15, 2019, 9 days after she had reported Taylor Rose missing, Brianna Williams was taken into custody. The charges were heavy child neglect, giving false information to law enforcement, and tampering with evidence.
As Brianna Williams was booked into the Duval County Jail, the world watched, captivated by the unfolding story of a mother accused of the unthinkable.
The arrest of Brianna Williams did little to quell the grief and anger that had gripped the community. Taylor Rose, a vibrant and innocent child, was gone, her life tragically cut short.
As the legal process began its slow journey towards justice, the community sought solace in shared mourning.
Candlelight vigils were held, their flickering flames a symbol of hope and remembrance. The community, united in their grief, refused to let Taylor Rose be forgotten.
The impact of Taylor Rose's death extended far beyond the immediate community, serving as a chilling reminder of the vulnerability of innocence.
The wheels of justice, once set in motion, turned slowly but deliberately. Brianna Williams, facing a litany of charges related to her daughter's death, was appointed a public defender.
The courtroom became a battleground for truth and justice.
The prosecution, armed with a mountain of evidence, prepared to present their case, determined to hold Brianna accountable for her actions. The defense, tasked with defending the seemingly indefensible, faced an uphill battle.
The stakes were high, the tension palpable. The fate of Brianna Williams rested in the hands of 12 jurors.
As the trial progressed, Brianna Williams' defense team employed a strategy aimed at creating doubt and appealing to the jury's empathy. They argued that the prosecution's case was circumstantial, lacking direct evidence linking Brianna to the actual act of killing Taylor Rose.
The defense team also attempted to cast doubt on the reliability of some of the forensic evidence.
Throughout the trial, Brianna Williams maintained her innocence, her demeanor a study in stoicism.
The defense team's arguments introduced an element of doubt into the proceedings. They reminded the jury that the burden of proof rested solely with the prosecution.
As the trial entered its final stages, a glimmer of vulnerability pierced through Brianna Williams' carefully constructed facade. During the sentencing phase, Brianna took the stand for the first time.
In a voice barely audible, choked with emotion, Brianna admitted to disposing of Taylor Rose's body, but maintained that she had not killed her daughter.
Brianna's testimony, while lacking the ring of truth for many, offered a glimpse into the tormented mind of a mother who had lost her child. After weeks of testimony, the case of the state of Florida versus Brianna Williams was placed in the hands of the jury.
Hours turned into days as the jury grappled with the weight of the evidence and the complexities of the case.
On March 26, 2022, nearly 2.5 years after Taylor Rose's disappearance, the jury delivered their verdict. Brianna Williams was found guilty of second-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, and tampering with evidence.
The guilty verdict, while offering a sense of closure, could not erase the pain of Taylor Rose's absence. Brianna Williams, facing a potential life sentence, would have ample time to contemplate the devastating consequences of her actions.
As Brianna Williams stood silently in the courtroom, awaiting her fate, the gravity of her crimes pressed down upon the room like a physical weight.
The prosecution, their case meticulously built upon a foundation of forensic evidence, argued for the maximum sentence life in prison without the possibility of parole.
They reminded the jury of the horrific circumstances of Taylor's death: the duct tape used to silence her cries, the shallow grave in the Alabama woods.
The jury, their faces etched with the weight of their responsibility, listened intently. The courtroom had become a crucible of justice, a place where the truth, however painful, demanded to be heard. The day of Brianna Williams' sentencing arrived, a somber occasion marked by a palpable sense of anticipation and dread.
The judge, his face a mask of judicial impartiality, addressed Brianna, his voice echoing through the silent courtroom.
The judge acknowledged Brianna's guilty plea to second-degree murder and the other charges against her.
Then, the sentence: life in prison, without the possibility of parole. Brianna Williams, once a young mother with her life ahead of her, would spend the rest of her days behind bars.
As Brianna Williams was led away, her fate sealed, a sense of closure, albeit an imperfect one, settled upon the community.
The community, bound together by shared sorrow and a desire for healing, continued to grieve for Taylor Rose. Candlelight vigils were held, their flickering flames a testament to the enduring light of her memory.
Support groups formed, offering solace and understanding to those struggling to cope with the emotional fallout of Taylor Rose's death.
The community, though forever marked by tragedy, began the slow and arduous process of healing. The memory of Taylor Rose would forever be etched in their hearts.
Despite the guilty verdict and the sense of closure it brought, whispers of doubt lingered in the aftermath of the trial.
Online forums buzzed with speculation, with armchair detectives dissecting the evidence, proposing alternative theories, and debating the merits of the prosecution's case.
While the legal system had rendered its judgment, the court of public opinion remained divided. The case of Taylor Rose Williams, while officially closed, would continue to spark debate and speculation, a haunting reminder that some questions may never be fully answered. Years passed, seasons changed, but the pain of Taylor Rose Williams' loss lingered, a dull ache in the heart of the community. The vibrant and innocent child, whose life was tragically cut short, would never experience the joys of growing up, of reaching her full potential, of leaving her mark on the world. The community, forever marked by her absence, sought ways to honor her memory, to ensure that her legacy extended beyond the tragedy of her death. Scholarships were established in her name, providing educational opportunities for underprivileged children. Parks and playgrounds were dedicated in her honor, creating spaces for laughter, play, and the joyful innocence she embodied. Organizations dedicated to child welfare and the prevention of child abuse received an outpouring of support, their missions imbued with a renewed sense of urgency in the wake of Taylor Rose's death. Parents, educators, and community leaders engaged in difficult conversations about child abuse, neglect, and the importance of creating safe and nurturing environments for all children. Taylor Rose Williams' legacy, though forever intertwined with tragedy, became a catalyst for positive change, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can emerge from the shadows, and that the love and compassion of a community can create a brighter future for all children. The case of Taylor Rose Williams, though deeply unsettling, served as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance, compassion, and the unwavering pursuit of justice for the most vulnerable among us. It ignited conversations about child abuse, neglect, and the systemic failures that allow such tragedies to occur. In the aftermath of such a profound loss, it is tempting to succumb to despair, to allow the darkness to overshadow the light. Yet, Taylor Rose's story also reminds us of the power of community, the importance of speaking out against injustice, and the resilience of the human spirit. by honoring Taylor Rose's memory, by advocating for policies that protect children, by supporting organizations dedicated to preventing child abuse, we can transform tragedy into a catalyst for positive change. We can create a world where every child feels safe, loved, and valued. A world where stories like Taylor Rose's are never repeated. Though the pain of her loss will forever linger, Taylor Rose Williams' legacy can be one of hope, resilience, and a commitment to creating a brighter future for all children. Let us honor her memory by working together to build a world where every child is safe, cherished, and free to reach their full potential. Her fate was sealed. The courtroom had fallen silent as the judge read the sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole.
The community, forever scarred by the tragedy, grappled with the knowledge that no punishment could ever truly atone for the taking of an innocent life. Brianna Williams, the young mother who had once grasped her daughter's hand, her smile radiating a love she now stood convicted of betraying, showed no emotion.
The courtroom, usually a place of legal battles and pronouncements, seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with unspoken grief and a lingering sense of disbelief. The sentence, while offering a sense of justice for Taylor Rose, did little to ease the pain of her absence. The tragedy of Taylor Rose Williams' death left an indelible mark on the Jacksonville community. It forced people to confront the uncomfortable reality that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, even within the supposed sanctity of a mother's love. The sense of security, of trust in one's neighbors and community, had been irrevocably shattered.
Yet, amidst the grief and despair, a spirit of resilience emerged. The community, bound by their shared sorrow, rallied together, offering support to Taylor Rose's grieving family and seeking ways to honor her memory.
Candlelight vigils, their flickering flames symbolizing hope and remembrance, illuminated the night, transforming spaces of loss into places of healing.
The tragedy sparked important conversations about child abuse, neglect, and the need for greater awareness and prevention efforts. Parents hugged their children a little tighter, their hearts heavy with empathy for Taylor Rose and her family.
The community, forever changed by the tragedy, vowed to honor her memory by working to create a safer world for all children.
Through their collective grief, the community discovered a shared strength, a determination to find meaning in the face of senseless loss. Taylor Rose's story, though steeped in tragedy, became a catalyst for positive change, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can endure and hope can emerge from the shadows.
"5 years old, a lifetime of moments stolen." Taylor Rose Williams should be remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived, with a smile that could light up a room and a spirit that knew no bounds. She was a beloved daughter, granddaughter, and friend, her absence leaving a void that could never be filled.
In the hearts of those who loved her, Taylor Rose's memory would forever remain vibrant, her laughter echoing through the corridors of time. They would remember her infectious giggle, her love for dancing, and her boundless energy. They would cherish the memories of her hugs, her bedtime stories, and the way she could always find a reason to smile.
The world would never know what Taylor Rose might have become, the dreams she might have pursued, the contributions she might have made. But her story, though tragically cut short, serves as a poignant reminder to cherish every moment, to nurture the innocence and wonder of childhood, and to never take for granted the precious gift of life.
Taylor Rose Williams may be gone, but she will never be forgotten. May her memory serve as a beacon of light, a reminder to embrace the beauty of life, to hold our loved ones close, and to strive for a world where such tragedies are never repeated.
The tragic case of Taylor Rose Williams serves as a stark reminder that child abuse and neglect can happen anywhere, to anyone, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, or religion. It is a pervasive issue, often hidden in plain sight, and it demands our attention.
We must all be vigilant in our communities, aware of the signs of child abuse and neglect, and willing to speak up if we suspect something is wrong. Silence only protects abusers. By reporting our concerns to the authorities, we can help ensure that children are protected and that families receive the support they need.
There are numerous organizations dedicated to preventing child abuse and supporting families in crisis. By volunteering our time, donating to these organizations, and advocating for policies that protect children, we can all contribute to creating a safer world for children.
The loss of Taylor Rose Williams is a tragedy that should never be forgotten. Let her story serve as a call to action, a reminder that we all have a role to play in protecting children and preventing future tragedies. Together, we can create a world where every child is safe, loved, and free to reach their full potential.